With the 1,000-year Blood War arc in full swing, we've had a little bit of time to check out the new villains that Team Kubo's pushing our way. The Vandenreich, otherwise known as the Quincy. Now, they've been attacking the Soul Society for just over 10 chapters. It's about 14 now, actually. And we can already see that they've caused a serious amount of damage. So in this discussion video, I'm going to be talking, it's going to sort of be a little bit of a follow-on from my 1,000-year Blood War Arc predictions video, but mainly it's going to be focusing on the Vandenreich, what they're like in comparison to the Aranka and the Espada. It was just like the Fullbringers, but not really. It's sort of going to be, a follow-on from my original predictions one, but I'm going to mainly do a new discussion video when I reach 50 subscribers, if I reach 50 subscribers. Please subscribe. So yeah, really, this is going to be talking mainly about the differences and comparisons we can make between the Vandenreich and the Espada, the Sternritter and the Espada, who's the most dangerous villain in Bleach, Juha Buck or Eisen, these kind of comparisons. It's a little hard to make since we've not really seen a lot of the Vandenreich yet, and one could argue that we haven't seen everything that the Espada ever could have shown either. But let's get on with it. Let's talk mainly about the Espada first, since we're more familiar with them as villains. So, the Espada were gathered together. They were a group of the 10 strongest Arankas based mainly on their Reiatsu. Originally, it was their destructive power, but Kubo sort of seemed to retcon that a little bit, and he said that Eisen gathered them and ranked them based on terms of how much Reiatsu and destructive power they have, which in a way kind of gives a bit of logic to the fact that Yami was the Zero Espada. But, so we had a group of Aranka who didn't really work very well together. I mean, if there's one thing I've noticed, Hollows don't really do teamwork. They're arrogant, they're all loose cannons, really, in their own way. Some would argue that people like Stark and, Lilanet, maybe even Harabel aren't. They're possibly exceptions to the rule, however. I think most Espadas stem from their Hollow backgrounds. They're all pretty insane, really. No matter how far they've evolved, no matter how much intellect they've got, most Espada are still animalistic at nature. I think Nell, even though she was an Espada, she's also another exception to the rule, explains this very well to Neutra, and she says that, they're still Hollows at heart. And we see that Neutra's just a relentless killing machine, at least back in the past. So Eisen is this Shinigami who, he gathers the Espada up with the sole purpose of sort of, wearing down the offences of the Gotei 13. I don't think they really had much more purpose than that. Eisen has his own goal, but I'm pretty sure that none of the Espada were ever included in that, to no end. So really the Espada could never really work together. We saw that when Eisen was trapped in the Jokaku Enjo at the beginning of the Winter War battle, Baragon immediately took hold and he said that, now that the boss is trapped in there, I'm going to take command, and there better not be any, any disagreements. So we see straight off that the Espada just don't function well together as a group. It's as simple as that. They might be strong, but they all have their own agendas. Zale wants a world without Hollows. Zamari just wanted to blindly follow Eisen. We didn't know a lot. Another problem was we didn't know a lot about most of these Espadas, so all we really got from Aranira was that apparently Eisen promised him no more pain. But, Grimjo wanted to be king, which I personally think was pretty at odds with Eisen's own goal. Ulquiorra seemed to just want to follow Eisen. Neutra wanted to be acknowledged as the strongest. Stark wanted to sleep. Baragon seemed to want to, he wanted to kill Eisen and get his role as a Huaycamundo king back. So in effect, his contrasts with Grimjo's and Eisen's, and therefore they make a bit of a triangle of people whose personalities will clash and can't possibly work. So in reality, you've got a group of very strong people who don't stand a chance in hell against Soul Societies, especially Soul Society's combined forces, with the Vizard and that lot, because they all know how to work together. The Espada, when you look at it from this sort of black and white view, achieved nothing. They fought a lot of people and they beat them down quite heavily. Lots of people lost arms here and there. Baragon took off the arm of both Hachigen and Soifon. But really, overall, they didn't achieve anything. How many of them actually wanted to fulfill Eisen's desires? Or how many of them were just in it for their own agendas? So therefore, really, you couldn't have expected much out of them. Eisen couldn't have really expected much out of them. The Espada as a group weren't particularly efficient, and when against the combined powers of the Gotei 13 and the Vizard, they were wiped out in pretty quick succession. Now, admittedly, perhaps this was just for shonen drama, but the Espada as an individual, sort of one-on-one against a Shinigami would usually overpower them. Mainly because an Arrancar with, the powers of a Zanpakuto is overall stronger than a captain, say. An Espada level Arrancar, anyway. But at the end of the day, the Espada, they didn't achieve anything. There were no casualties on the Soul Society side. The Espada couldn't work together, and I think this was the main issue. Now, if we move on to Aizen and his devilish trio, Tosen, he was a bit weird. He was kind of neutral. He just wanted justice. He was following Aizen, partially because he thought it was the right thing to do, but I think his ulterior motive was mainly that it was revenge against the Soul Society, so he didn't really care what happened outside. He didn't give a crap about Aizen's motives. He didn't really care for Gin. He didn't really care for the Espada. He saw himself as a pure being. I think after we had the Komamura fight, it wasn't so much that Tosen was after his own justice. He thought he was the bringer of justice. So now he was going to fight against this organisation that he foresaw as being corrupt because they did nothing about the killer of his best friend. So again, Tosen can't really work because his ordeals didn't follow Aizen's so much. He was willing to work with him just to get revenge against the Soul Society, but how far he would have gone, we don't know. Gin, of course, was a complete wrench in the whole plan. Didn't want anything to do really with Aizen's plan at the end of the day. He just wanted to kill him. So, he was always going to be there in the shadows to backstab him. Sure, he chose the wrong time, but regardless, he was always going to be there. Aizen, on the other hand, as a villain, he was pretty incredible. He was what's called a magnificent bastard in trope terminology. He planned everything out to an almost unbelievable scale. His Kyokosui Getsu was of awesome power. But the problem with Aizen was, as an actual villain, that he left himself with far too much trouble to deal with, and that he wouldn't kill anyone apart from Yamamoto. This does make a lot of sense, though, because Aizen wants to rule. He doesn't want to destroy, and therefore, why would he want to get rid of everyone? Why would he want to kill everyone? So Aizen's, only flaw as a villain, really, is that he didn't actually want anyone to die because he wanted to rule everyone. So if in comparison we look at the Vandenreich and what little we've seen of them at the moment, they are, in my opinion, the perfect villains for the end of Bleach. The Quincy have had a grudge with the Shinigami that's been established since the very beginning of the story. And since the very beginning of the story, the Quincy have been established as to be the greatest threat to the whole world, and all the different worlds as well. As Rukia said about the annihilation of the worlds, if the Quincy hadn't been destroyed, everything would have collapsed. And the Quincy are here. They're militaristic. Admittedly, we don't really know a lot about them. We don't know much about them at all, really. But from what we've seen, they can work in coordination with one another. Immediately, 3 chapters into the arc, a vice captain, admittedly of little importance at the time, was killed off like that, impaled straight through Yamamoto's office. And that immediately set the tone for the arc. You were like, oh my god, these villains actually mean business. So, already we've seen they're far more efficient. They were able to get into Yamamoto's office and straight out again. They were able to declare war, kill Sasakibe, and, 1,000 Shinigami. Actually, I think it was only 100 back then. In, one fatal swoop. They just jumped in. The readers don't know anything about them. I think that's the point. I think Kubo's like, well, the readers can feel like how the Shinigami feel. The Shinigami don't know anything about these people. They're just jumping in and killing them all off. So, when you think about it like that, the Vandenreich, they already have one thing that the Espada don't, and that's, necessary teamwork. Ju Harbach is not the same as Aizen. Aizen wanted to rule. Ju Harbach wants to destroy. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't discriminate. He's already knocked Kenpachi for 6, and he was about to kill him before Yamamoto arrived. I think the general consensus is that Yamamoto's going to die in this fight against Bach, and we're just seeing a far more ruthless enemy. Unlike the Espada, who were really arrogant of their obviously superior powers, but they were arrogant of them. They would just go on and on and on and on, do the typical villain, thing where they would just talk until they were killed. We already saw with Az Noah that he just obliterated Byakuya. Sure, he monologued a little bit while the fight was going on, and Kurge OP monologued to no end. But Az Noah just, pummeled Byakuya until he was dead with Senbonzakura. There is no letting up here. As soon as the Quincy arrived in the Seibei, Kira's heart was pretty much blasted away. This is the difference between the meticulous, formulaic Aizen and the impulsive, almost brash Vandenreich. The Vandenreich want to get this done. They don't want to mess around. Ludus Freegan, he prophesized that the Vandenreich would attack in 5 days. And we saw that Bark doesn't seem to really like this forward thinking. He's impulsive. As soon as they discovered that Ichigo was in Hoikamundo, Bark was ready, and he was like, right, let's just go. Let's attack. We're ready. And, their attack seems to be coming off pretty successfully. The Shinigami seem to be in a bit of a hope spot at the moment, as Yamamoto seems to be taking the battle back a little bit for them. But as far as we know, I still think it's going to end badly for Soul Society at the moment. So the main thing is, the difference between the Espada and the Vandenreich: preparation, teamwork, unification. The Espada were arrogant. Yeah, okay, some of the Vandenreich, like Driscoll Bursey, he was extremely arrogant and he paid the price for it. You could say that Aesno, Nananajuku, and Busby were also arrogant in their really stupid attempt to attack Yamamoto from behind. But then again, this could just be, military fashion. They saw an opportunity to attack him while he was engaged with Bark, and they did. But as Shinsui said, that kind of logic, that kind of thinking, that kind of preparation doesn't work when you consider Yamamoto, and so they were taken out. It's just as silly as when the Tres Bestias tried to attack him. So I think that with the Vandenreich, although I really like Aizen, I think at the moment we can consider Vandenreich the greater villains. They are more of a threat than the Espada. I saw this forum on Bleach Asylum, and it said that, are the Espada more... No, it said the villains these days aren't as threatening. And I really don't think that's true. Admittedly, the threat level of the Vandenreich seems to have somewhat dissipated since their first arrival. And I think that's the point. Take for example the Colonel Sanders Quincy. He just jumped in at Shinsui and shot his eye out. But now he's doing a lot of talking, he's doing a lot of worrying. Shinsui got a massive cut on him. The battle seems to be evening out. Unlike the Espada curb stomp that was, though, this is more of a war. This is proper, both sides are taking casualties. It's very unpredictable. Like, who the hell gonna... I did not think we were suddenly going to see Bankai, Zanken, Otachi. I didn't think we were going to see 3 Sturmits taken out at once. I didn't think Byakuya was going to get killed off, in 2 chapters. I didn't think Kira was going to get blown apart as soon as the enemy arrived. This is what a war is, and this is the difference between the Vandenreich and the Espada as far as villains go. The Espada, it was all very formulaic. It was all this, then the Espada died. This, then the Espada died. And it was like, okay, when you were watching a fight between, say, I don't know, Stark and Shinsui, it was not so much where is this fight going to go, it was how is Shinsui going to win, because that was obviously what was going to happen. Now, though, these fights are unpredictable. Is Komamura going to defeat Bambietta? Is Soifon going to defeat this White Knight Quincy? Is Toshiro going to defeat the Ezio Quincy? What's going to happen? And that's the difference between the Vandenreich and the Espada. The Vandenreich have brought unpredictability, but at the same time, staunch, stoic preparation, regulation. Some of them are a bit mental, like Driscoll was kind of crazy, but I think that just comes with being a shonen villain. They're bound to spout off a couple of quips every now and again about how their power is so superior. But at the end of the day, they have all the advantages in strength and defence that the Arrancar had, but at the same time they have this mentality, this wartime mentality, that they want revenge. They actually have a purpose, a combined, unified goal, unlike the Arrancar, who were sort of randomly thrown together as the strongest Espada, and Aizen was preaching to them about different things. Aizen said to Stark that he would give him friends. Aizen said to Barragan that he would give him a new world of power. We can presume that Aizen said to Zale that he would give him a hollow free world. Just all these different motives that were just going to clash. They were never going to fit together. But with the Vandenreich, everyone wants the complete and utter destruction and levelling of Soul Society. And therefore they are a considerably more dangerous villain. No matter how the battle looks at the moment, the fight is going to rage on, and I don't see the Soul Society coming out of this as victors. That's the problem. With the Winter War battle, they were killing the villains left and right, and the Soul Society still had Urahara and whatnot to back them up. But now, they're really being pushed into a corner. The battle is sort of going one way, then it goes another. It's like a proper war this time. And so, the villains, the Vandenreich, to me, are the most threatening villains so far that Bleach has ever had. I did say originally we might talk about the Fullbringers, just going to discount that, because they were mini-arc villains, they were humans. I know the Quincy is technically human, but you know, the Fullbringers didn't really stand much of a chance anyway. But yeah, my discussion video has gone on for a little bit too long now. But I'm just going to throw some questions at you, YouTube. Who do you think is the most threatening villain that Bleach has ever seen? Perhaps you like the Arrancar, but if you do, why? Let us know in the comment section below. Why do you think the Espada are greater villains than the Sturmritter, or do you think the Sturmritter are better villains? Do you think that their unified goal is what's going to be the deciding factor between which villain does more damage to the Soul Society overall? I think we can safely say that the Sturmritter have probably done more physical damage overall already, and more mental damage, especially as far as Ichigo being trapped in the Garganta and hearing everyone's screaming voices is concerned. Kubo certainly seems to be setting up a warlike situation with this. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below which villain of which arc you think is the most dangerous. I didn't really consider Soul Society in the first arc villains because they were being manipulated. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Until then, see you next time.